Have you guys ever had a deal that was so good that you couldn't stop buying? Maybe one, two, three variants of an amazing gun? If that's your problem too, stick around. We're talking about the HK VP9 series today. Hey everybody, Randy Reviews It here. So today, if you saw the intro, I hope, we're talking about the HK VP9 series. And yes, I bought three HK VP9s. Two of them I'm very, very happy with. One of them is probably on the chopping block, and we'll talk about why, so stick around for that. But first, let's get into why I think the VP9 is one of the top two striker-fired guns that are out there on the market, and you should definitely not overlook them, especially at the price points we're seeing today. So let's talk about VP9 1. This is the HK VP9 without the optics cut on it. You can find these for under $500 right now, which is absurd. HK is trying to get rid of these because they don't have the optic cut, and there's so many people that are hooked on those optics right now, including me. So if you're an iron sight guy, like you're getting the deal of a lifetime right now, I think. When these guns originally came out, they retailed for like just under 800. You're looking at like 770 I was seeing and things like that. Probably closer to 700, but you'd see them as high as 770, 750, that sort of thing. Well, now with the red dot craze, they're pricing these to move, and I feel like I see deals every day, including some of these where you can get them under 500. It's wild to me because I think this is up there. There's two guns to me that I think are the pinnacle of striker-fired guns. It's the HK VP9 and then the Walther PDP series. And the HK VP9 comes out ahead in a few things. What I think it lacks is the trigger, but the trigger on this is still better than just about everything else out there. It's just Walther has that trigger on lockdown, and there's no denying it. But the HK VP9 has a few things going for it that I think it pulls ahead overall than the Walther. And let's talk about them. So first thing, when you get an HK and you put your hand on it, the ergos are absurd. It's got side panels, it's got back panels, it feels amazing. The finger grooves fit nearly everyone. It just grips your hand. The texture is pretty good. I mean, it's not the best texture, but it's really, really good. It's comfortable to carry with the texture, but it still grips your hand really, really well. The next thing, the other pro. I am very pro paddle release. So if you've ever worked with a paddle, gun is clear. You can just click this with your index finger without shifting your grip, get right back onto things. So rather than having to shift to hit the button on the back side, you can just flick this. The other thing is this, if you're left-handed, ambi, it's right there too. You don't need to switch anything. You don't need to worry about dropping a mag where your thumb is or anything like that. So the paddle mag release for me has been faster, it's been easier, and it's been definitely better for offhand shooting or if you're left-handed as well. The next thing with the VP9 is the recoil impulse. So HK has these dialed in. If you know anything about HK guns, they usually design things around the 40 Smith & Wesson first and then tone it down to the 9mm, which makes it a very pleasantly shooting gun. It's great to shoot. I have an HK VP40 as well. I've done a video on that. It was one of my first videos because I've had that gun forever, and it shoots like a 9mm. This gun shoots softer, I think, than my Shadow systems even. And it's really great. The next thing that the VP9 does really well, you can see these little wings on the back of it. So if you're in a stressful situation or anything like that, you can always index those wings to clear that slide, tap, rack, whatever you need to do. The serrations are good as is, but the tap rack is, or I should say the wings make it even better. It's a good size, this VP9. Overall, like the weight's great, everything. I love this gun. Like the trigger pull, it's just a little bit of the typical striker take-up. Well, it's right there. An amazing gun, amazing accuracy. I would argue too that HK gets overlooked, but their reliability is above Glock in my opinion. The USP trials were wild. They did crazy things to those guns. And then the P30, those things run like tanks too. The VP9 is no slouch either. It's all the same things, just that people loved about the P30 turned into a striker-fired version, and it's been amazing. I've seen some people talk about a break-in period. It's never happened to me. These three pistols have a decent amount of rounds through them already, and I have had no issues, none whatsoever. So let's get into the next gun. And this is the optics-ready version of the VP9. So same great things about the VP9, only it's got an optics cut. The one thing I would say though is this is a C&H Precision plate on here, and I'm not a big fan of the plates. They say it's optics ready, but well, if you know HK, a lot of times their web store is out of stock on the plates that you want. So you're probably going to have to buy Aftermarket, which is kind of a con. But the forward control designs make a plate for this, and it looks pretty good. The reason I don't like the C&H Precision plates is what we'll talk about on this. This is the VP9L. So this is the longer one. And the plate for this, let's see if we can see that. There's a little gap there. And while the other plate for the EPS filled that gap, the plate for the RMR does not. And the way C&H Precision has this is there's like kind of a T-nut that screws up into the plate. And if you don't have it perfect, you will bend or break those. And they send extra ones because of how often it happens. I would have rather had them just make the plate solid to fill those spots in, put the screws in, and you'll be fine. But C&H Precision overlooked that, so I'm not a huge fan of that. With the VP9L, this one I don't like as much as the regular VP9s. And some people would be like, well, Randy, it's longer, you should have better sight radius, it should perform better. The balance gets thrown off on this gun a little. So because of the extra length and the same like weight on the polymer frame, it doesn't balance the same way that the VP9 does. And I'm just not loving this. To be honest, the VP9L had a few misses. So it comes with 20 round mags instead of the standard 17 round mags, but the 20 round mags are too long to make it like allowed in competition. So they made this gun for competition and then somehow overlooked what the mags had to be, which was a big miss on their end. And on top of that, it just like this has that O-ring at the end of the barrel. And it seems like this one just isn't as smooth as the other guns. And you'll notice if you lightly rack it or if you ride the slide, you might have issues. So you really got to let that thing slingshot when you're shooting it. So the VP9L, in my opinion, I think is the one that's going to end up on the chopping block. The other two I'm very happy with. In fact, the sights that came with the iron sight version are really, really good sight. Blacked out rear with tritium inserts, nice U-notch, big dot on the front. Loving those sights. Same on the other VP9. And then on this, it's like an XS big dot, which are nice sights, but you're probably going to put an optic on the VP9L. And like I said, the optics cut and the plates are kind of annoying, at least the C&H Precision one. And the balance is just off. What they should have done with the VP9L is offer like metal frame version, like what Walther's doing. And then they need to get those mags to the correct size. Right now as a competition pistol with the balance of this, I just think it's a little bit off. I would rather shoot this on a given day than the VP9L. So overall, I still feel like the VP9, the base model, with a 4-inch barrel instead of the longer one, is probably the best striker fired gun out there right now, especially stock. The only thing that I've had to do to these, or I shouldn't say had to do, I chose to do to these, was to cut the trigger groove out. So if you can see right there, there's usually a trough in the bottom of the trigger, and that was designed for gloves, so that your gloves wouldn't get stuck. I actually got the chance to talk to HK at the PSA gathering this last weekend and asked them if they're ever taking that out. They said Europeans got weird ergonomics and we just got to deal with it. So I just took those out myself. It's pretty easy. It's polymer. You get a Dremel, you know what to do. But it makes it a lot better because with those troughs in, depending on how your finger sits, it could hit the bottom of those troughs. And I actually like drew blood once because I shot like 1,500 rounds in a sitting with these VP9s, and I was cutting my finger up on the bottom of the trough a little bit each time, and it was not pleasant. So I got rid of the troughs. Other than that, this gun is amazing. If you can see, this one's decked out with the Holosun PID. We got the EPS carry on there as well. This is now my bedside protector as well with my AR. It sits in my Voltex safe right next to the bed. So I trust this gun. I use this gun. I love this gun. And if you haven't tried one yet, you're missing out. Get into it. Aftermarket support. So the aftermarket support on this isn't awful. You can get the mags. The reason I bought all three of these, by the way, was there was a crazy mag rebate. You got like $200 credit on HK store and you could buy mags with that. So having P30s already that take the same mags, it was a no-brainer for me. I got a bunch of extra mags. I got to try more of the 9mm strikers because, like I said, I already had the 40 Smith & Wesson version, and ended up really, really liking these. Grey Guns does do a flat trigger on these, but I would say don't get Bubba with it because HK is notoriously overbuilt, and I've heard that those trigger kits are a real pain to put in. So unless you're ultra confident in what you're doing, maybe avoid that and talk to a qualified gunsmith about doing that. I might be looking to do that in the future, but these triggers, like I said, out of the box came great. So no complaints here. Big fan of HK stuff. The VP9 is no slouch. I know some people get nostalgic about the USP and the P30s. I do as well. But the VP9 is, I think, arguably the best striker fired gun on the market right now. And like I said, if you haven't checked one out, check one out. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. If you think I'm an idiot and you think I'm wrong, leave a comment. Take care.